Mike hadn't reached the pinnacle of wealth by trusting easily. At 72, the billionaire restaurant mogul had built an empire of five-star establishments across 3 continents. But lately, something troubled him deeply. The coldness he'd witnessed in his own venues, staff treating struggling customers with contempt, compassion replaced by calculation. Tonight, Mike decided to conduct an experiment at his newest Manhattan location, the Azure Room. Dressed in his finest suit but carrying himself with deliberate weariness, he slumped at table 17 in the corner, pretending to fall asleep after ordering nothing. Around him, the restaurant hummed with New York's elite, celebrities, executives, people who spent more on wine than most earned monthly. 23-year-old Elena Mitchell had started her shift 3 hours earlier, her first day at the Azure Room. She'd moved to New York with dreams but faced harsh realities: rent due, student loans crushing her, and now this intimidating job where she felt utterly out of place among experienced servers who glided effortlessly between tables. When Elena noticed the elderly gentleman slumped at table 17, concern immediately flickered across her face. Other servers had passed him multiple times, whispering disapprovingly about the drunk, occupying premium real estate during peak hours. The maitre d' had even suggested calling security. But something in Elena's heart wouldn't allow indifference. She approached slowly, genuinely worried. Elena knelt beside the table, her voice soft. "Sir? Are you all right?" Mike kept his breathing steady, eyes closed, curious what would happen next. He'd seen staff at competitors' restaurants roughly wake sleeping patrons, sometimes even rifling through their pockets. When he didn't respond, Elena gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "Sir, I'm concerned about you. Do you need medical help?" Still nothing. She glanced around. Other servers were busy, deliberately ignoring the situation. The manager was occupied with VIP guests. Making a decision, Elena did something remarkable. She removed her serving apron, folded it carefully, and placed it as a cushion beneath Mike's head, which had been resting uncomfortably on his crossed arms. Then she quietly asked the hostess to hold any table assignments for her section. For the next 20 minutes, Elena stood guard nearby, politely deflecting complaints from other staff about the wasted table. She brought water, placed it within reach, and even adjusted the air conditioning when she noticed the vent was blowing directly on him. She didn't check his wallet, didn't photograph him for social media mockery, didn't treat him as an inconvenience. Instead, she pulled out her phone and discreetly researched signs of medical emergencies in elderly people, wanting to know if she should call an ambulance. Her break time came and went, unpaid minutes she desperately needed, but Elena remained vigilant. Mike, still feigning sleep, felt something shift inside his chest. In decades of testing people, he'd never encountered this. Finally, Mike stirred, slowly awakening. Elena immediately moved closer. "Sir, welcome back. How are you feeling? Can I get you some water?" Her eyes showed genuine relief, not judgment or irritation. Mike, playing his role, appeared disoriented. What happened?" "You're at the Azure Room restaurant, sir. You seem to fall asleep. I've been keeping an eye on you to make sure you were okay. Would you like me to call someone for you? A family member, perhaps?" Mike noticed her name tag, Elena Mitchell. He noticed the worn edges of her shoes, barely visible beneath her uniform. He noticed the kindness in her eyes that money couldn't buy or fake. "I'm so embarrassed," Mike said, genuinely meaning it now, though for different reasons. "I must have been more tired than I thought." Elena smiled warmly. "Please don't be embarrassed. We all have difficult days. Can I bring you some coffee? Or perhaps some food? You should probably eat something." "I couldn't possibly," Mike began, but Elena was already gently insisting. "On the house," she said, though she had absolutely no authority to make that offer and would likely have to pay for it herself. "Just something light. You'll feel better." She returned minutes later with warm soup, fresh bread, and coffee she'd somehow convinced the kitchen to prepare. As Mike ate, Elena checked on him repeatedly between serving her other tables, which had finally been reassigned to her section. The manager, Victor, eventually noticed and stormed over. "Mitchell, what do you think you're doing?" Victor's voice was harsh, uncaring who heard. This man has been occupying a prime table for nearly an hour, without ordering, and you're giving him free food? Elena stood her ground, her voice respectful but firm. He needed help, Mr. Pearson. I wasn't going to ignore someone potentially in distress, just because. Just because what? Because it's good for business? This is a high-end establishment, not a charity. Victor turned to Mike. Sir, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to settle up and leave. Mike slowly stood, reaching his full height, and something in his demeanor suddenly changed. The weariness vanished, replaced by unmistakable authority. He removed his phone from his pocket and made a call. Catherine, I'm at the Azure Room. I need you here now with the regional management files. Victor's face paled. Sir, do you know who I am? Mike asked quietly. Victor stammered, suddenly recognizing the face he'd only seen in corporate emails and business magazines. Mr. Mike, I had no idea. Clearly. Mike turned to Elena, whose face showed complete confusion. Miss Mitchell, how long have you worked here? This is my first shift, sir, Elena replied, bewildered. Your last shift at this position, Mike said, and Elena's heart sank. She'd been fired before even finishing her first day. But then Mike continued, because effective immediately, you're promoted to assistant general manager of this location, with full authority over hiring, training, and culture development. The restaurant had gone silent. Elena stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Mike, the Mike whose name was literally on the building, had been the man she'd helped? Sir, I don't understand, Elena whispered. I'm just a waitress. I have no management experience, You have something far more valuable than experience, Mike interrupted, his eyes bright with emotion. You have compassion. You have integrity. You treated someone you thought was vulnerable with dignity and kindness, expecting nothing in return. You risked your job, spent your break time, even offered to pay for food yourself. He paused, his voice thick. Do you know how rare that is? How many people pass by me tonight without a second glance? Mike turned to address the entire restaurant, staff and patrons alike. I built my first restaurant 50 years ago with one principle. Genuine hospitality means treating every human being with respect, regardless of their apparent worth. Somewhere along the way, my own establishments forgot that. Not anymore. To Victor, he said simply, You're terminated. Security will escort you out. To Elena, your starting salary is $95,000 annually, plus benefits and profit sharing. Your first assignment is to rebuild this team with people who understand what you demonstrated tonight, that character matters more than credentials. Tears streamed down Elena's face. Mr. Mike, I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me remember why I started this journey, Mike replied gently. Say you'll teach others what you showed me tonight. Elena nodded, unable to speak. As Mike left the Azure Room that evening, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. One waitress had reminded a billionaire that humanity's greatest currency isn't money, it's compassion. And Elena Mitchell had just proven she was infinitely wealthy in the ways that truly mattered. The story spread quickly through Mike's empire, becoming legend. And the Azure Room? It became the most successful location in the chain, not because of its food or decor, but because of its heart.